The first time Ryan kissed me, I almost shot him. Not because I didn't want it hell, I'd been wanting it for weeks, but because in my line of work, affection is usually the prelude to betrayal. I was Elliot Hayes, codename Raven, a deep-cover operative embedded in one of America's most secretive counterterrorism units. My mission was simple: infiltrate, report, and, if necessary, dismantle from within. But things stopped being simple the moment I met Commander Ryan Carter. He was everything the file said he'd be: brilliant, dangerous, utterly loyal to the flag. But the file didn't mention his laugh, low and warm like whiskey after midnight. It didn't mention how he'd look at you as if the world around him stopped existing. And it definitely didn't mention that he'd make me forget who the hell I was supposed to be. At first, it was all part of the plan. Get close. Earn his trust. Find out what Operation Helios really was, the classified project my organization wanted. But Ryan wasn't supposed to make me feel safe. He wasn't supposed to look at me like I mattered. And yet, one night, after a mission that nearly got us both killed, he did exactly that. The smell of gunpowder still clung to our skin. We were back at base, both too wired to sleep. He poured me a drink, said something about one last mission. And then, for the first time in my life, I forgot I was supposed to be lying. The kiss was slow, deliberate. A question I answered without hesitation. I'd been trained to manipulate emotions, to make targets fall, but not like this. Not when every brush of his fingers made my pulse stutter. Not when I realized I didn't want to leave once the mission ended. Later, lying against him in the dim light, I caught him studying me. "What are you thinking?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "That I don't know what you're hiding, Hayes. But I don't think I care anymore." That should have scared me. It did. Because every agent knows love is the one thing you can't afford. Weeks passed. Missions blurred together. I sent fewer reports, made more excuses. The organization started to notice. Then came the day everything fell apart. We were ambushed near the Hudson docks, a setup I didn't plan but one that exposed everything. Ryan got shot protecting me, and when I dragged him out, bleeding and half-conscious, he looked at me like he already knew. "Who are you really, Elliot?" The words cut deeper than the bullets ever could. I wanted to tell him the truth, that I was never meant to care, that I was supposed to destroy him, not fall for him. But before I could answer, backup arrived. My own people, guns drawn, shouting commands. I did the only thing I could. I turned my weapon on them. After that night, everything became chaos. I went dark, off the grid. The organization branded me a traitor. Ryan, he disappeared. I thought he was dead. Until 3 months later, when I realized I was late. First, I thought it was stress. Then the nausea hit. The blood tests confirmed what should have been impossible. I sat in a dingy motel bathroom staring at the 2 pink lines, my heart hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. Ryan's child. The irony was almost poetic. The spy sent to destroy the commander ends up carrying his baby. I laughed until I cried. I spent the next few months running from both sides. The organization wanted me dead. The government wanted answers. And me? I just wanted to survive long enough to give birth. Some nights, I'd lie awake, hand over my stomach, whispering to a life that wasn't supposed to exist. "I don't know what kind of world you're coming into," I'd murmur. "But I promise, I'll protect you. Even if it kills me." And somehow, in those moments, I felt less alone. Then, one rainy night in Boston, Ryan found me. He showed up at the safe house door, drenched, eyes dark with exhaustion and something else. "You really thought I wouldn't find you?" he said quietly. I froze. "Ryan, you're supposed to be dead." He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. "So are you." The silence between us was heavy. Years of lies, guilt, love all crashing down in that tiny space. Finally, he looked down, eyes flicking to the gentle curve beneath my shirt. "Is it mine?" he asked. His voice cracked on the last word. I swallowed hard. "Yes." He exhaled, long and shaky, like the world had been holding its breath with him. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. "God, Elliot, you always knew how to make things complicated." I laughed, the sound breaking. You think I planned this? No, he said softly, stepping closer until his hand brushed mine. But maybe it's the one thing that wasn't a lie. I wanted to tell him everything. How the mission started, how it went wrong, how he was never supposed to mean anything. But before I could, the sound of boots echoed outside. They'd found us. We didn't have time to plan. Ryan grabbed his gun, pressed it into my hand. I'll hold them off. You run. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. No, I'm not leaving you again. He smiled, that same reckless smile I fell for months ago. You have to. You're not just fighting for yourself anymore. Before I could argue, he kissed me hard, desperate, final. Then he pushed me toward the back door. I ran. The gunfire started seconds later. By dawn, the safe house was in flames. Ryan was gone again, and I was alone again. But this time I wasn't broken, because somewhere deep inside, I could still feel his warmth. And the small heartbeat beneath my own reminded me. His story wasn't over. Ours wasn't either. So I disappeared once more, into the quiet corners of America, ready to fight for a future that was never supposed to exist. I didn't look back. The smoke curled above the trees, black against the pale dawn, and somewhere beneath it was the man I'd loved and lost twice now. I kept driving until the gas light blinked red, then ditched the car on a country road outside Vermont. It was the kind of town nobody noticed, where people still left their doors unlocked and talked about the weather like it mattered. For the first time in months, I wasn't Agent Raven. I was just Elliot Hayes, a man with no past, no home, and a heartbeat growing inside him that made him feel human again. The woman who rented me the cabin didn't ask questions. She took one look at my tired face and the faint tremor in my hands, then said, "You look like someone who needs quiet." She was right. The cabin was small, tucked between evergreens, with a view of the frozen lake that glittered like glass in winter. I spent my days chopping wood, reading old books, and listening to the baby's faint fluttering heartbeat on a cheap fetal monitor I bought online under a fake name. At night, when the wind howled through the cracks in the windows, I'd whisper stories to the baby, stories about bravery, about love, about a man who taught me how to stop running even when everything was falling apart. I didn't say Ryan's name, but I felt him in every word. The birth came on a night that felt like the world might end. The storm was relentless thunder shaking the cabin walls, lightning slicing through the sky. I'd planned everything meticulously, down to the medical supplies, the emergency radio, the escape route if things went wrong. But no plan survives reality. The pain came fast, sharp, consuming. I remember clutching the edge of the table, my breath ragged, sweat freezing on my skin. Between contractions, I thought I saw Ryan standing in the doorway, smiling that quiet smile. "Stay with me," I whispered to the vision. "Just stay." Hours blurred. Then finally a cry, a sound so pure, so alive, it silenced the storm outside. I laughed through tears as I held the tiny, squirming bundle against my chest. A boy. He was perfect, small fists clenched, dark hair plastered to his forehead, lungs already strong enough to command the universe. I named him Noah Ryan Hayes. The weeks that followed were the hardest and most peaceful of my life. Sleep came in fragments. Food was whatever I could manage. But every time Noah opened his eyes, Ryan's eyes, the world felt worth surviving again. I sent no signals, made no contact. I buried Elliot Hayes and Raven both. My only mission now was to keep my son safe. But peace doesn't last for people like me. It started with the sound of tires on gravel, too careful, too deliberate. Then the faint crunch of boots outside the cabin. I froze, hand instinctively reaching for the gun I'd sworn I'd never touch again. A knock, 3 short taps, then silence. I waited. Then came a voice I hadn't heard in almost a year. "Elliot, it's me." My heart stopped. I opened the door before I could stop myself. Ryan stood there alive, older somehow, exhaustion carved deep into his face. His clothes were soaked, his hands trembling slightly, but his eyes, they were the same. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He just looked at me, at the small house, the toys scattered on the floor, the faint sound of Noah's soft cooing from the bedroom. "You're alive," I breathed. He smiled faintly. "You sound disappointed." I wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. Instead, I stepped aside. "Come in." The silence between us was heavy, thick with everything left unsaid. He glanced around, taking in the simplicity of my exile, the firewood stacked neatly, the crib in the corner, the half-empty bottle of formula on the table. Finally, his gaze landed on the crib. "Is that?" I nodded. "Noah." He stepped closer, breath catching as he looked down at the sleeping baby. His hand trembled when he reached out, brushing the soft curve of the infant's cheek. "He looks like you," he murmured. I smiled weakly. "He has your eyes. And your stubbornness." Ryan chuckled softly, then turned to me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I met his gaze, steady but tired. "Because you were dead, Ryan. Because the world wanted me dead. And because I didn't know if I could trust you after everything." He exhaled, nodding slowly. "Fair enough." Then, after a beat, "I didn't die that night. The explosion was staged. My team pulled me out before the place went up. But I couldn't find you. They said you were gone." "Gone?" I asked, half a laugh, half a sob. "Yeah, that's one way to put it." We sat by the fire for hours, talking in fragments. About the ambush, the people we lost, the lies, the missions. At some point, Noah stirred, and Ryan watched as I picked him up, clumsy but instinctive, and soothed him back to sleep. I caught his expression in the firelight. Awe, grief, and something softer. "You're good with him," Ryan said quietly. I shrugged. "I'm trying. He deserves better than the life I had." Ryan's gaze didn't waver. "Then let me help." Those words changed everything. For weeks, Ryan stayed. He fixed the broken heater, repaired the truck, and learned how to hold Noah without looking terrified. The cabin filled with laughter again, small, hesitant, but real. Sometimes, I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find him asleep on the couch, Noah on his chest, both breathing in sync. And I'd stand there, watching them, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. But peace was never built to last, not for people like us. One afternoon, I found Ryan sitting outside, staring at the lake. His phone lay beside him, a device I'd forbidden him to use. "You called someone?" I said flatly. He didn't deny it. "They found us, Elliot. The organization. They're not going to stop." My stomach turned cold. "So you told them where we are?" His eyes flashed. "I told them to stand down. I'm not with them anymore. I couldn't keep running. Not with you. Not with Noah." I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But trust wasn't something you just picked up again after a year of lies. Still, when he reached out and took my hand, I didn't pull away. That night, as the fire burned low, he said it. "I love you." 3 words, soft and certain. I froze. He looked at me not like a soldier, not like a commander, but like a man stripped bare. "I don't care what you've done, Elliot. I just want to start over. With you. With him." I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But before I could answer, the world crashed down again. The window shattered. A bullet tore through the wall. Then another. Ryan grabbed Noah, I grabbed the gun, and the next seconds blurred into pure instinct. "Go!" he shouted. "The truck." I fired back through the window, glass flying, heart hammering. Outside, the forest exploded with gunfire, silenced rifles, tactical movement. Professionals. My old organization had finally found me. We reached the truck, snow crunching beneath our boots, bullets slicing through the night. Ryan covered us, firing back until his magazine clicked empty. He climbed in beside me, slamming the door shut. "Drive!" The tires spun, the engine roared, and we tore down the frozen road. For miles, nothing but darkness and the sound of Noah's cries filled the cab. When I finally dared to look at Ryan, blood was running down his arm. "Ryan, it's fine," he gritted out. "Just keep going." But it wasn't fine. He was fading fast. I drove until the road ended at an abandoned gas station. We crashed through the door, found shelter behind the counter. Noah was crying softly now, exhausted. Ryan slumped against the wall, pale and sweating. "Stay with me?" I whispered, pressing my hands against the wound. He smiled faintly. "You said that once before." Tears stung my eyes. "Don't you dare die on me again." He reached up, brushing a tear from my cheek with blood-stained fingers. "You're a terrible spy. You know that?" "Yeah." I choked out a laugh. "You fell for me. That makes you worse." He laughed weakly, then went still. "Ryan." I shook him, panicked. He didn't move. The world tilted, and for a moment, all I could hear was Noah's soft whimpering. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just pressed my forehead to his and whispered, "I'll keep him safe. I swear." By morning, the storm had stopped. I buried him beneath the old oak tree behind the station, marked the spot with nothing but a simple cross made from broken wood. Noah slept against my chest, unaware that the world had just lost the best man I'd ever known. As I stood there, wind cold against my skin, I realized something. Ryan's death didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a promise, one I wasn't done keeping. I wasn't running anymore. They wanted me gone. But this time I'd fight back. Not for revenge. For love. For Noah. For the future we both deserved. Weeks turned into months. I built a new life under a new name, in a new town, far from the shadows of the past. Noah grew fast, curious, loud, alive. Every time he laughed, it sounded like hope. And every night, before bed, I'd whisper the same words I'd once told Ryan. "I don't know what kind of world we'll face tomorrow, but we'll face it together." Then, one evening, as the sun dipped low, I got a letter. No name, no return address. Just a single line written in familiar handwriting. "You really thought I'd let you raise him without me?" My heart stopped. I looked up, and there across the street stood Ryan. Alive, smiling. And for the first time in forever, I let myself believe in happy endings. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. The streetlight flickered, the night air heavy with the scent of rain, and there he was. Ryan. Alive. Smiling that same crooked smile that had once undone every defense I ever built. I didn't move. Couldn't. My heart refused to believe what my eyes were seeing. He crossed the street slowly, hands raised like he was afraid I might bolt. "Elliot," he said softly, his voice breaking on my name. It wasn't possible. I buried him. I saw the blood, the stillness, the way his skin turned pale under the morning light. "You're dead," I whispered. He stopped a few feet away. "Not anymore." My knees went weak. "How?" He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "The bullet missed anything vital. I blacked out before you buried me. The extraction team found me hours later. They kept me under for months. Witness protection, deep black ops. I wasn't supposed to make contact. But when I heard whispers that you and Noah were alive, I couldn't stay away. I didn't know whether to punch him or hold him, so I did both." My fist landed squarely against his chest. "You bastard!" He laughed, then caught me in his arms as I started crying. "Yeah," he murmured into my hair, voice shaking. "I probably deserved that." I pressed my face against his shoulder, breathing him in alive, real warm. The world, for once, felt right again. That night, after Noah was asleep, Ryan told me everything. The organization I'd once worked for, the one that sent me after him, wasn't dead. It had gone underground, resurfacing under a new name, the Ascendancy. They were rebuilding their network, targeting rogue agents and operatives who'd gone off-mission, people like me. "They want Noah," Ryan said quietly. "They know about the child." My blood ran cold. "Why?" "They think he's leverage. Or insurance. They don't believe you disappear without a reason. They think you're still carrying information." I laughed bitterly. "Information?" I burned every file, every trace. "The only thing I'm carrying is diapers and regret." Ryan smirked, but his eyes stayed serious. "Then we end this. Together." The plan was simple, which usually meant it was suicidal. We'd draw them out. Make them believe I was willing to trade the data they wanted in exchange for our freedom. Then, when they came for us, we'd make sure none of them walked away with the upper hand. Ryan wanted to call for backup. I refused. No more soldiers. No more blood for lies, I said. This time, it's just us. He hesitated, then nodded. Just us. The meeting point was an abandoned train yard outside Chicago. Rusted freight cars, weeds growing through the cracks, and the faint hum of the city far beyond the silence. I wore a wire, but it wasn't connected to anyone. Old habits die hard. Ryan positioned himself on the roof of a derailed car, sniper rifle steady, eyes scanning every shadow. Then they came. 3 black SUVs. Men in suits stepped out, the kind who looked more like accountants than assassins, but whose eyes said otherwise. Their leader, a tall man with silver hair and a face like carved ice, smiled when he saw me. Agent Hayes, he greeted. Or should I say, former Agent Hayes? I'm not your agent anymore, I replied. He chuckled. We both know you never stop being one of us. You have something we want. Give it to me and we'll let you walk away. Liar. His smile faded. Where's the child? I felt the cold steel of fear slide down my spine. Safe. Far away from this. Children aren't safe anywhere, he said. Unless we allow them to be. That was when the first shot rang out. Ryan's bullet hit one of the guards square in the shoulder. Chaos erupted. I ducked behind a train car, gun in hand, adrenaline flooding my veins. Elliot, move left. Ryan's voice came through the earpiece. I obeyed, slipping through the shadows, counting shots. 1, 2, 3. Silence. Then the unmistakable sound of a child crying. Noah. My heart stopped. I turned. One of the SUVs had its door open and there he was, strapped in a car seat, crying for me. How Ryan's voice came again, strained. They must have tracked the sitter. Elliot, don't, but I was already running. I reached the car just as a man grabbed Noah's seat. He turned and I shot him. No hesitation. No mercy. I ripped open the door, pulled my son into my arms, whispering, It's okay, baby. Daddy's here. Then I felt the muzzle of a gun press against my back. Step away from the vehicle, a voice ordered. I froze. The silver-haired man again. His smile was gone now, replaced by something colder. You really think love makes you invincible, Elliot? He sneered. You think you can build a life after what you've done? I turned slowly, shielding Noah with my body. I don't think. I know. His finger twitched on the trigger, and that's when Ryan dropped from the train car above him, landing like a storm. The 2 men clashed, a blur of fists, steel, and rage. I watched, heart in my throat, until Ryan gained the upper hand, pinning him against the car, gun to his throat. Say you surrender, Ryan hissed. The man laughed, blood on his teeth. You think killing me ends this? There are others. There will always be others. Ryan's eyes went dark. Then I'll end every last one. A gunshot echoed, but not from Ryan's gun. The man fell, a bullet clean through his chest. I looked down at the pistol in my own shaking hand. I wasn't asking, I said quietly. Silence settled over the yard. Only Noah's soft sobs broke it. Ryan turned to me, eyes wide, a mix of pride and sorrow. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. He nodded slowly, understanding. Together, we burned everything, the files, the vehicles, the bodies. We made sure there was no trail left to follow. When dawn broke, the yard was nothing but smoke and silence. We drove until the city disappeared in the rearview mirror. Months passed. The danger faded, but the ghosts never fully left. We moved to Oregon, a quiet coastal town where nobody asked questions. Ryan took a job at a local security firm, something simple, honest. I opened a coffee shop by the docks, Noah's Haven. I called it. Every morning, the air smelled of salt and coffee, and the 3 of us sat by the window watching the sun rise over the ocean. Sometimes, when the light hit just right, I'd catch Ryan staring at us, that small, content smile tugging at his lips. What? I'd ask. He'd shrug. Just trying to believe this is real. And I'd smile back. It's as real as we make it. Years passed quietly. Noah grew tall, curious, endlessly mischievous. His first word wasn't dad or mama. It was home. The irony wasn't lost on me, because after everything, the lies, the blood, the missions, we finally had won. Sometimes, when the nights turned cold and the waves outside roared like thunder, I'd sit on the porch with Ryan, a blanket around us and Noah asleep inside. "You ever think about what could have been?" I asked once. He smiled faintly. "Every day. But then I look at you too, and I think maybe this was how it was always supposed to go." I leaned against him, listening to his heartbeat. "You still think I was a terrible spy?" "The worst," he said, laughing. "But you make one hell of a father." One evening, as the sun set over the water, I found a small velvet box on the table. Ryan stood behind me, nervous in a way I'd never seen before. "I don't have a speech," he said. "Just a question." When I opened the box, the ring inside caught the dying light, simple, silver, perfect. "Elliot Hayes," he said softly. "After everything, will you marry me?" For a man trained to face bullets without flinching, I was completely undone by that moment. Tears blurred my vision. I nodded, laughing through them. Yeah, I will." He kissed me slow, certain, the kind of kiss that made every broken thing inside me feel whole again. And for the first time since I'd met him, I didn't feel like I was falling. I felt like I'd finally landed. Our wedding was small, just us, Noah, and a handful of people who didn't know or care about the lives we'd lived before. We said our vows barefoot on the sand, waves crashing behind us, Noah giggling as he tried to chase the seagulls. "I promise to stop hiding the good coffee beans from you," Ryan said, grinning. "I promise not to shoot you when you snore," I replied. The officiant chuckled. "Well then, by the power vested in me by the state of Oregon." When Ryan kissed me, the world felt quiet. No lies, no missions, no masks. Just us. Years later, when Noah asked how his parents met, Ryan laughed and said, "It's a classified story. But sometimes, when the night was still and the stars stretched endless above us, I'd tell him the truth. About a man who was supposed to be my enemy. About how love made liars into believers. And how sometimes the most dangerous missions end up saving your soul. The past never truly vanished. There were still shadows that watched from afar, files locked in vaults marked top secret. But we stopped running from them, because after everything, I'd learned one thing: you can't hide forever. You can only live louder than the silence trying to swallow you. And that's what we did. Together. On our 10th anniversary, Ryan woke me before dawn. "Come on," he said, grinning like a kid. We drove to the beach, the same spot where we said our vows. The tide was low, the air crisp. He handed me a small box, not a ring this time, but a silver compass. "For when you forget where home is," he said softly. I looked at him, at the man I'd once been sent to destroy, and smiled. "Home isn't a place, Ryan. It's you." He kissed me, the sunrise painting the sky gold behind us. And somewhere, between the waves and the laughter of our son chasing gulls, I realized love isn't about the missions you complete. It's about the ones you choose to stay for. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.